I am going to be walking us through how to maintain the hydroponic system. Step one is get this box that has the Let Us Grow label on it and says nutrients and lid. It has all of the supplies you will need in it. Step one, you don't really have to do this part, but just for ease of access, you can like kind of spin the system a little bit because you're just gonna need to get in right here. If you're ever not sure, you can just check on the back of the bags, but we're gonna need 1 scoop of nutrient A and 1 scoop of nutrient B about every 1 to 2 weeks. I'm at about like 10, 11 days right now. Everything still looks good, but that's kind of like your mid-range, just depending on what the plants look like. And we're gonna start by removing this cap. So there should be little scoopers inside of your bag. You just want to make sure to keep them dry. Get 1 good scoop of this stuff. Dump it in. Take your stir stick and try to give it a good whoosh without like messing with the pump or anything. Like try to stay away from the cords and stuff if you can. Then we're gonna get our nutrient B. And we are going to add a scoop of this. And do the same thing, get our stir stick, and whoosh it around in the water a little bit. I have this system unplugged right now because it was on the 15 where it would be on, and it's just for ease of access because it gets a little splashy. You can leave it on and that helps mix it anyway, so that would be fine. All right, now that we've done all of that, I'm gonna make sure that the pH is okay. So we're gonna grab our little pH test kit. I've made sure to rinse this out the last time I used it. Just make sure that every time you use it, you rinse it so there's no residual whatever left in it and it throws off the test. So dip it into the system. And get about 5 milliliters, which is this little line down here. Then we are going to take our bottle of pH tester, and we are going to give this like 3 drops. So 1, 2, 3. Put it in there, give it a little swish, a little swish. Right, so I mean I probably could have added another drop, but I can tell that that's yellow. If that doesn't really look yellow enough to you, add another drop. If it's not giving you a very vibrant color, you can add a little more. And give it another zhuzh, and now it's like more yellowy. And you can tell that this is kind of like a little on the green side. So if we wanted to, we could add a little bit of this pH down just to make sure it's not too high, but it is just a little bit above this square right here. It's very convenient. We want it to be orange or yellow. This is a little green. We have hard water, so the likelihood that we're gonna have to add some pH down every time we do maintenance is pretty high. I don't know if that'll change as the water ages, but I think that it will, just based on every time we add nutrients. We're gonna need to update this just to make sure that the plants can absorb the nutrients. So we're gonna take 1 scoop of the pH down and drop it in there. Give it a little swish. So I know that the pH is fine because it was so close. I've done this before enough times that I kind of know that once that color, 1 scoop of the pH down is fine. However, if you wanted to test and make sure, I would leave it sitting for a little bit with the pump running for like 2 or 3 minutes, come back, do the same test after rinsing this out, and then you can check to see if the pH is too low, like if you've lowered it too much and we're in the red, there's not really a lot you can do about that but add more nutrients, and you'll just have to kind of test it out. So I recommend kind of starting slow with adjusting the pH. Okay, so I let the pump run for a second after putting the pH down in the system, and I'm just gonna test it one more time. I've rinsed the tube, and I'm gonna make sure that the pH went where we want it to go. Going to add 1, 2, 3, 4 drops, swish it around, and you can see it's more yellow now. So again, I mean, if you wanted to add a little bit more pH down, like if you feel like this is not quite right and you wanted it to be a little lower, you could add another scoop. This yellow is fine because that signifies it's around 6. So I think that I'm just gonna stop here. So 1 scoop of that pH down is probably all we're gonna need every time. If you're not sure, or if you want to like proceed with extra caution, feel free to use extra, but that's just gonna be more product you're gonna have to buy later on down the road. So I would conserve as much as possible. Okay, so I have the system plugged back in, turned back around so that the plug ports are facing the wall. I've got all of my stuff put back away. I've rinsed out that little test tube, and I am just waiting for the stir stick to dry before I put it back in with the other stuff, because I don't want this to get any of our nutrients or our pH wet, because that would kind of really mess it up. So just make sure this is dry before you put it back in the box with everything else. And otherwise, you're good and you have maintained your hydroponic system.